Let's close out with this last one from Realtor.com. The number of U.S. homes for sale is slowly returning to normal, an incredible trend, and economists say. Now, we kind of had, dipped our toe into this topic in a previous episode where we were talking about despite the amount of increase in inventory, pending home sales were down month to month. Remember that? So we had pending home sales down 7.7% recently. But that's also within the same window of space that this article is saying that inventory is returning, and in fact, inventory is quote-unquote booming. So, so in the latest monthly housing report from Realtor.com, the overall number of homes for sale in May marks 7 months of growth in a row. There are 35.2% more homes on the market than this time last year.
That's insane. An
incredible trend in the direction of normality. So remember that we talked about how pending home sales were down and that inventory was up. This is either going to go out one of two ways. Either demand will show up and absorb all this new inventory, or the demand will be waning and we will start to see price corrections, and that pending home sales will still be down or low, and you actually might start seeing some price retreat in selective parts of the country. What do you think?
So I was going to similarly agree with that, only to the point where it starts heating up again, and then it's going to go right back to
what's going to heat it up?
So the demand.
Okay.
So if the demand fits, and once it gets there, I think enough people still want to buy the house. And even if the prices go down, more people are going to start jumping on the boat. And like we said, there's certain people that like this appetite, that are okay with these levels. But as soon as people start tapering down, there's more people that are going to jump like, hey, now it's time. And that by default, there's going to be a certain period where it drops. And then, okay, that was the bottom. Now we're coming right back up.
So I think this is a little bit of projecting, and I'm not saying they're doing this intentionally. I think this is kind of just happening. This is my way of describing what I'm reading here. I'm gonna just say, quote, while the housing market is still in the seller's territory, it is expected to shift in a buyer-friendly direction as mortgage rates resume their decline over the next year and the number of homes for sale increases. So I think that demand drive you're talking about is going to come from basically the signal of the Fed that they're going to have to reduce rates sometime in the fall. They're kind of saying it, not saying it.
Yeah, the tottering around.
But this is that kind of projecting where it's like, oh, hey, it would be really nice if you started dropping those rates in the fall there, guy. And then all of a sudden, okay, they're going to do that. Then it's also, again, we've talked about it during election time.
Yep.
There's a lot of other variables going on.
It's like a perfect storm that they're brewing and holding off on to really just kind of be able to leverage everything at once.
So if that's the case, it's like, okay, well then maybe sellers need to hold their breath for another 60 or 90 days.
Yeah,
because
I can see that.
It's this battle. Okay, so the spring and summer, it's home buying season. Like this is the time to put your house in the market. Well, that's what you see happening here. 35.2% more inventory hitting the market now than this time last year. Okay, evidence of that. But if you're also strategically claiming that with rates going down, it could create more demand, and the demand, and we know the demand is going to keep prices high, then maybe holding your breath for 2 or 3 more months could get you a higher price. It would be out of season, quote unquote, by going into the fall. In some places in the country, you really have to consider that when it comes to weather and actually how well your house might sell in that time. But if you have a choice, I mean, I think you're teetering or teeter-tottering or wagering between two really optimal, I say historically, recently optimal situations. Get your house on the market right now while it's buying season, selling season, or wait till that Fed makes that like dip in rates and they make their first announcement that they're going to drop rates. I think that's when demand and affordability are going to get a little bit closer together, and then you're probably still going to be able to get peak price at that time. I just don't see peak price going away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's really difficult to pinpoint how far prices are going to tank. I don't think they'll tank. They'll dip.
But they kind of did that. They kind of already did that in the summer of 23. They hit a little hitch, but they came back already. So it's like we're already back to where it was before that.
And that's where I'm like, saying that it's gonna happen again.
It's kind of like a little fish hook, like kind of
and every year. Okay, because I think if rates come down at the same time that prices start to come down, I think it's gonna be like boom.
But they won't. I'm saying I don't think they will, because if rates end up coming down, that's not going to drop prices down too. You disagree?
I agree.
You agree?
I agree.
Oh, okay.
It's going to make prices go up because more people are going to be able to afford.
It's at least going to hold the price, because now the cost of borrowing the money to get that price is going to be leveled out.
Rates would need to stay higher for longer. But
hey, where'd you hear that term?
Hey, I've been paying attention to the Fed. You guys should check us out every week.
Hire for longer. That's a great marketing slogan for some other businesses that are cropping up these days. I said hire for longer and cropping in the same sentence. You all know what I'm talking about. So there are 46.6 more homes on the market in the $200,000 to $350,000 range, something inventory and price constrained buyers will surely welcome. My question mark is to where are these places? I'll take two.
That's equivalent to 650 to 750 here in San Diego.
Yeah, it really is. Because if the national median home price is like 442, and we're saying San Diego median home price is $1,072,000.
Our median price is going to be around that price.
You're right around 650 to 750 for locally price adjusted inventory coming to the market in that range.
That for San Diego, as soon as houses in that range start to come down a little bit, I have buyers that are in that range. Right away, they're freaking sending houses. Right away, hey, this one came down. So there's people at
750?
That 650 to 750, 800 range is, I feel, the medium price range for a lot of people that are doing their second home, their starter home. Like, that's the healthy medium where people are at. And I feel that that's where a lot of the competition is. Mm-hmm. You start going above 850 to 900, things start to slow down a little bit unless you have the high income. The payments are pretty significant once you start coming in with just the minimum. So a lot of the people that I see buying in those ranges are coming in with a hefty down payment or equity that's, being transferred.
I'll tell you something. I've seen that inventory in the higher priced homes has definitely tapered off. It's in the other direction. There's less homes coming out for $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million.
It's just tough.
That's what I'm saying. There's a much smaller buyer pool that's in some cases, and maybe most cases, it's also a buyer who's coming from a place that they're also trying to sell at, let's say it's a localized highest price as well. And I know that we've seen some price declines, but then even despite the price declines, they end up going off market. I've seen a handful of those happen just here in our local area in the last, I'd say, more than the last 30 days for sure. It wasn't a lot in February, March, but in April, May, it kind of caught my eye in April. And then in May, I was like, oh, wow, all these are gone. And I thought they closed. They didn't close. They actually are off the market. They're not even for sale anymore.
It just starts getting very tricky with the payments. Like, even if you make tons of money, like, it's still a fat payment that you're going to be paying a month for. Anything above $900,000, you're in the hole for like 6, 7, maybe
$8,000,
depending on your down payment. So if you
that sounds so crazy. We're just throwing these numbers out.
And I know, and it sucks to say that we just talk about it so loosely because that's our norm and reality here in San Diego. Yeah. But truth of the matter is that for anyone, that's significant amounts of money going out every month, and
it's a lot of money.
Regardless of where you live or what you do, you're gonna double think those types of payments.
I can find lots of things to do with $8,000 a month.
Like, financially speaking, like, if you're somebody that takes care of your finances, you're probably, hey, this isn't a good financial move. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I feel that smart enough people would be like, hey, I can taper off this right now. I don't have to go into this right now. I could go into a smarter financial thing a more smarter financial asset or investment than, get into this.
Yeah. So let's use a really quick case study. There's some people in my circle who I've been talking to about, okay, if you come back to California, how much is it going to cost you to own a house? Let's say it's $8,000 a month. $1 million house, $8,000 a month. Okay, if you rent a house that's a little bit smaller and you have to rent it and it's still $5,000 a month, you're basically, quote unquote, saving $3,000 a month, which it sounds crazy. If you actually are budgeted for $8,000 out of pocket, then you can split it the way you're talking about. You can rent for $5,000. It feels like trashing $5,000 every month, right? But that $3,000 can be going to something else. Savings. It could be going to investment. It could be doing whatever. Now, I know that is an active conversation with people who are well off economically and are trying to figure out, well, where am I going to go put this hard-earned dollar?
Because, you think about it, it's not a bad play if you're renting for, a certain, plan that you have going on. Like, hey, I know we're gonna not buy a house right now, but we're gonna take those savings and put them towards something else. Like, that's a smart decision if you have that planned out. But it's very difficult if you don't have that plan. So I think if you're able to, put that into place, you'll be able to, maneuver a lot better. But it's just.
No, I know what you're saying, because it's like it's a catch-22.
It's like, on one side, I'm not paying this over here to pay over there, but you're not getting this that you would get for buying. But in your current situation, that may not make sense for you to take those write-offs.
Yeah.
You probably need the cash flow a lot more, and that can make you a little bit more money if you're smart with it.
It's a tangle because
Yeah.
at some point you have to decide, and I'm going to just locally speak here for San Diego. It's like at some point you have to decide that, okay, well, that $1 million house is not in my definition $1 million house. It's a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
But you know what? It costs $1 million. And if I truly believe that over the long haul, 10 years, 15 years, it's going to be $1.5 million, $2 million. It may not even look like a $2 million house, but right now and later, two different scenarios, man. They're just two different things.
Yeah.
So at some point, someone might have bought that house for $250,000. Like, this ain't a $250,000 house. And then it was $500,000. Like, I sold my house for $500,000. And you're like, man, that's not a $500,000 house. That's $1 million. Whoa, that's $1 million house?
I think you said it, you have to believe. Like you
And
have
a
to believe
and have a commitment.
Have a believe, back it up with some good, comps, information, and I think that's it. You just have to believe that what you're doing is going to pay out. And I mean, I don't know how much data you need to show that.
Well, and it takes us down
smart
the whole
investments,
that could take us all the way down that whole the house hacking rabbit hole we've talked about, as far as how you can leverage the property and make more income and have cash flow and all that kind of stuff. But
Yes,
I
sir.
think in general, if you're like, hey, I'm just trying to chomp down $8,000 a month payment for a house that I just got to live in with my family, you're making a big choice.
Yeah.
You're making a very hefty commitment.